some of those dresses, and what some of the faster female set could do with strategically dampened muslin. Not to mention the most daring, who would use a glamour to wreath a plain underdress in what looked like gorgeous satins and crepes, sure to dissolve at the touch of a gentleman's silver watch chain or signet ring. Truthful pirouetted again, causing a shower of pins to fall from Agatha's hand. "Oh, Agatha, I am sorry." Agatha scowled and bent to pick them up. Truthful tried to bend down to help her, but the dress was really rather tight above the waist, so she said, "I think I'm just a little excited today." Muttered Agatha, who was holding several pins in her mouth. The pins were old, and hints of bronze were showing through worn tin plating, which, to someone with an arcane education, would indicate Agatha could not touch iron, that there was fey blood in the older woman. Truthful had not had such an education. She had never noticed Agatha's particular pins, or how the maid would wrap her hand in her apron to turn a key, should it prove absolutely necessary. If she had, it might not have alarmed her. Even some of the higher nobility had fey blood from the distant past, and not all the old fairy folk were by nature inimical to humans. Agatha took the pins from her mouth and said, "What's to be excited about, my lady?" "Why, Agatha," laughed Truthful, "it's my birthday, you silly goose, and Papa is going to show the Newington Emerald to all my friends." "The Emerald?" asked Agatha. "Shown to all your friends? You mean those Lacey boys?" "They're Newington Lacey's, Agatha," replied Truthful, "and they are young men, not boys." "Aye, and no good will come of mixing young men and emeralds, you mark my words," grumbled Agatha. She put the pins back in her mouth, and her face resumed its customary scowl. "I'm sorry I made you spill your pins," said Truthful, "but it is my birthday, and it is exciting. Oh, I can hear a carriage in the drive. They must be here already. I have to go down." Agatha mumbled and nodded and tacked the last inch of the hem in place. With a parting cry of thanks, Truthful fairly leaped from the room, leaving Agatha searching for any pins that might have rolled away. Downstairs, the three Newington Lacey boys were making their bows to the Admiral, who had launched himself from his study and bore down to meet them, propelled by a good humour that had been reinforced by the excellent claret he'd broached on the excuse of tasting it before Truthful's birthday dinner. Truthful paused on the stairs, hoping to achieve the awed silence inspired by all heroines as they stood framed in the sunlight on the middle landing. But as she had misjudged the light and stopped in shadow, no one noticed her. Not a bit put off, she paused to look at the men in her life instead. The Admiral, as her father, came first under her gaze. Admiral the Viscount Newton had been a senior post-captain under Nelson, fighting under the great commander at Aboukir, Copenhagen, and Trafalgar. At the last battle, he had been wounded in the leg, and although he survived to continue seagoing service for a decade, rising to the rank of Rear Admiral of the Blue, it marked the beginning of the gout that sorely plagued him, and the drinking with which he exacerbated his affliction. He had been retired for several years now, and Truthful had found the distant, none-too-frequent visitor of her childhood to be a loving, if somewhat difficult, father when he finally came to harbour at the ancestral home. Truthful had never really known her mother, a renowned glamouress, and a granddaughter of the famous sorcerer Marquis of Perriworth. Venetia Newington had died when Truthful was 6. She had only fleeting memories of her mother, disconnected moments, a song sung softly in dim light over her bed, laughter and cold throwing snowballs together on the slope of Old Hill behind the house, a soft finger drawn under her eyes to wipe away tears. Looking at the red-flushed, roly-poly face of her father, she wondered how such a paragon of beauty and magic as her mother had fallen in love with a considerably older, irascible naval officer, whose prospects